Hey there, everyone. My name's Hadassah Damian, and I have a project called Bride Free Fearless Money. And tonight I am going to be pulling from that store of knowledge where I've been hanging out, trying to research and learn and experiment with how money works and how to make it work a little better for the last 5 years, to talk to you all about financial life design and hacks for crisis times, because here we are. So in order to do this little mini session today, I'm going to bounce back and forth between this screen here and sharing like an interactive whiteboard screen for us to do some exercises on. So I'm going to hop over there for a second. And as I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I ended up doing all of this work that I do. So hopefully you can see this financial life hacks whiteboard, cool stuff. Look, so it was probably almost exactly 5 years ago at this point that I first broke my super bad money thinking. I had spent a lot of time in my life feeling really like stuck around money. Like I didn't really know how to earn it. Like I didn't really know how to call it into my life. But at the same time, I felt really capable and like confident that when I had money, I knew what to do with it. I just really didn't understand, or felt like I didn't understand, how to think about myself as a person who had money. And so that was just like my version of bad money thinking. And in my opinion, pretty much everybody has some version, their own story that's their like not so helpful money thinking. Or maybe in other areas of your life too. But and so I remember the day that I managed to break my bad money thinking. I was like walking along in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, where I've lived for 14 years. And I was like walking by this beautiful brownstone and thinking to myself, it is just like, sucks that I'll never have one of these brownstones. I'll never live in one of these. I'll never own one. I'll never have a backyard. I'll never this. I'll never that. Da 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 da. Started kind of like going down the pathway of my like, I just won't kind of thinking. And I just remember I was standing in front of this building and I paused and I was like, well, hold up. Like, literally, how do you know that that's not possible? Like, what would be possible? What would make it possible to own an apartment in a brownstone in New York City? Like, literally, what do you have to do? Girl, you don't know. So why do you say you can't? Because you literally don't know what it would take. And that was a moment where it was just like a massive boing, a light bulb for me. And I started going in on money and how it works because I really wanted to know what it would take to do all kinds of things with money. And the story doesn't end with me like buying an apartment in New York City. I kind of learned what it took and realized that it was whatever, not an investment that made sense for me because it's expensive with lots of taxes and interest. That's not the point. The point is that I stopped, changed how I thought about the problem. And then instead of feeling like crapola about it, radically changed my life because I was realized that I could just figure out how it worked and decide how I wanted to go about it or decide not to go about it. So the thing that I want to have you do just for a quick moment, I'm going to give you a minute, is to like stop and think about when or was there a time in your life that you were like not normal about money? And what I mean by that, like, have you ever broken your money thinking that wasn't good, right? Did you ever have a light bulb about wanting to pay off debt or realizing that you were more frugal than other people, or that you wanted to be frugal because you weren't, or realizing that you wanted to like spend money for like values of like joy and giving as opposed to like guilt and pressure like most people spend money. Was there ever a moment that you were not normal or broke your money thinking? Just think about it, write it down. You have a minute. All right, I think 30 seconds is actually good enough. Here's the great thing, good people. Once you unlock your way of thinking, you always have it, right? You've always unlocked it. And that's how I like approach thinking about money and thinking about all of this like kind of mind hacking, behavior hacking work, in particular what we're going to talk about in this little exercise. So again, my name's Hadassah Damian. I have a project called Ride Free Fearless Money, but that came out of the fact that I'm a lifetime weirdo artist wanderer. And also somebody who has just wanted to figure out how to like do the right thing in the world and do it in a way that doesn't fuck the world up anymore. Because as you and I can probably very clearly see, this is a wild, mind-boggling, mind-melting kind of time. I'm sitting here recording this for you at the end of, towards the end of April 2020. I've been in my lovely, but you know, not palatial apartment here in Brooklyn for the last 5 weeks. As many of you have been in your homes for the last many weeks. So if you are feeling tired, if you are feeling like a little overwhelmed, cognitive loads, what you are experiencing is making a whole bunch of new decisions and doing new learning without necessarily a lot of like prep for doing that learning and doing this new decision making. And so, look, for me, I come at decisions from like this very, you know, teacherly kind of way. And so if I was to give you my like fancy definition, right? Decisions about money, which is what most of our interactions with money are. They're little mini decisions. They're really based on our understanding of systems. How does money work? How does credit work? Do I even know? Will I get more money? They're based on our understanding of relationships. Is it okay for me to have money? Is it okay for me to spend money? Will more money come to me? Is there money in my family? Does my partner have money? All that, right? They're based on our understanding of like economics and exchange, our relationship with time and the things we need and want, and our relationship with our own sense of value and values. And often when we're working on money, we're coming from a place of just trying to like tweak and optimize, or maybe like rebuilding like one pillar. But right now, most of us are rebuilding a whole bunch of things all at once. One of my wise educator friends said, you know, I don't have a new job, but I feel like I have a new job. It's just that everyone's treating me like I should already know what I'm doing, even though I've had to completely change everything about what I'm doing with work. So again, most of us have had to completely change a lot of things about how we live our lives in the last 6 weeks or so. And so when a shizit is crazy, decisions are extra hard because you have cognitive load already pulling on your mind. I want to bring in Daniel Kahneman, who is a Nobel Prize winner in behavioral economics. He has this excellent book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And the like short version of the thesis is that there's 2 states that our cognition can go into. One is thinking fast, which is essentially like habitual thinking, or the things that you already know. What's 2 plus 2? You might have quickly gone to, it's 4. Thinking slow is when you don't have the neural pathway or the knowledge pre-built in your mind, right? What's 17 times 42? You have to stop, think about it, maybe pull out a calculator or some paper. It's probably not front of mind for most of us. For most of us, the example of the last 6 weeks is an excellent explainer for what it is to try to learn new things, make lots of new decisions over and over. Do I wash my hands again? Do I wash my hands again? Should I go out? Do I need to wash the dog if some stranger petted him? Like, when should I go to the grocery store? Do I have enough gloves for the grocery store? Decisions, 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 decisions. That drains your brain. What I want us to think about and do in this session today is that we are going to set you up to be hacked, to make less decisions. And the way that we're going to do that is by combining some behavioral economics concepts and design thinking, which is just a way to identify and try out ideas and see how they work for you. Behavioral economics is the science of decision making, and it really essentially proves over and over that we're not as rational as we like to think that we are. But if we know that we're not as rational as we like to think that we are, it means we can set ourselves up to kind of hack the way we do things, because we're not all Data from Star Trek, and that's okay. He was totally cool, but that's not how most of us work. If we know that's not how we work, if we know that when we are in crisis or drained, making decisions is harder, if we know that we will get stuck in certain types of things because we're human beings with feelings and human brains, we can set ourselves up for easier success. And that's what I'm going to talk about over the next 15 or so minutes. So thank you for hanging with me. So let me get into my notes here. So a little bit of what I want to give you, just like final thoughts before we go into this, is like this really like deep grounding in like what is a design approach to money. If you go back to the exercise I had you do a few minutes ago, I asked you about a time when you were not normal or when you broke your thinking about money. A design approach to thinking about money is really explicitly a way for you to like start thinking in ways that aren't normal to you so that you can get to different ideas or start getting to different ways of doing things. Because look, let's be honest, a normal approach to money is in some ways the equivalent of like taking your backpack and turning it upside down and shaking everything out and being like, this is everything I know about money. Is this what I need? What about this? You know, it's a frantic approach, and that doesn't help. Design thinking is a strategic approach. So we're going to do a strategic exercise. We're going to like do a little behavioral science learning along the way. And I'm going to invite you to do this exercise along with me. So back to the wacky old screen share, and then let's get this party started. Okay. So essentially what we're going to do is we are going to talk about some ways that you can decrease the number of decisions you have to make to save your brain for the important decisions, which roundabout now are like, should I use more hand sanitizer or not? Let your brain make the important decisions, pre-make the other ones. Values load, pre-decide. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about how you might right-size your problem. For example, you might not want to be solving for like inequality, which I personally want to solve for, but that's big, that's vague, that's very difficult to solve for. Is there something local on your street, in your neighborhood, in your family, that you can scale the problem down and then have more success in solving for? So we're going to talk about an exercise that I call Go for the Cupcake. Nobody hates hearing that. And then we're going to talk about some of the cognitive biases, in particular, my very favorite prevalent cognitive bias, which is Parkinson's law of triviality, and how you can kind of like use it to get in, to let yourself just like stop grinding on things that aren't worth your time. Boom. So with this example, if we were here in person together, you would be filling this out with me, but you're going to be doing it here on the internet as you go along. So I'm going to try to pause a little extra and give you some time. But so right now, the first thing you want to do, I'm going to have you get out some paper, get out like a little digital pad, is like list some financial things you've been thinking about. They could be like super specific, they could be super big. Let's see, I work with a lot of people in coaching around money. So a couple of things pop to mind that I have heard recently. One decision might be, let's see here, like, should I buy expensive hand sanitizer at the store if I find it? Right? It's the sort of thing that's going to like potentially bug you. If you don't like, if you do get it, if you don't get it, okay, great. Maybe like another decision that you might be like warbling on. Should I pause my 401k contributions right now? Right? You might be thinking, oh, shit's like pretty unstable. I don't know. Should I pause these? Right? Another one. Should I give or give more money? There's no shortage of highly valuable places to give money that you have available to give. Should you? Can you? How much? Right? So take another 20 seconds or so. Like, what are money decisions that you're thinking about or you've like been thinking about? I'm going to add one or two more. Okay, so I added a couple other ones that are the types of things that I think people kind of like waffle and grind about. Is it time to buy a new or used car? And grind back and forth on that. Should I take money from savings or start a side hustle? I need more income. I think a lot of people are familiar with that right now. You just like kind of try to dump the things in your mind out into a list. I've been thinking about this, thinking about that. Great. Now you order them in terms of value to you. Okay. So that could be financial value, that could be spiritual or psychological value. Just put them in order of value. So you have your list, now you're just going to rewrite it in terms of like what's most valuable to me. Okay, so maybe just for example, if you're me, you might be like, oh, I don't know, I'm kind of like worried about pausing my 401k. I really want retirement money, but yeah, I really, okay, this could be expensive. If I don't figure this out, I'm going to kick myself. And also every time I go to the store, I'm asking this, it's hell. And then I guess the car has to go on here too. Okay. Take a first pass of ordering your list. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Now, as you're ordering these, a couple things might be coming to mind. One, you might be like thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if I can order it because I don't know how valuable it is, because that's the thing that I need to figure out. If you're worried that something is really valuable, it's probably more important than something that you're not super worried about that on. So there's an indicator for you. And if there's something that you're worried is really valuable, but you don't actually know, your next step would be to do some digging and research to try to figure out exactly how much that thing might be worth to you. And if it's not something you can easily research, you might want to do some like scenario mapping, right? Okay, if I did this, then what would happen? Okay, so hypothetically, you have a list of financial goals in order. Maybe you had to pause the video to get there. Maybe you're just kind of playing along with me. The next step here brings us into like our next kind of behavioral science question. If we started with some specificity, just what are the things I'm grinding on? The next place we're going to go is to kill the trivial. So Parkinson's law of triviality. Parkinson is most famous for his like law that the amount of time it takes to do a project expands into the amount of time available. So it's Parkinson who would say, well, look, if you have 2 hours for something, it'll take you 2 hours. If you have 2 weeks for it, it'll take you 2 weeks. He's not wrong, people. But his other observation was that in any given list of agenda items to get through, a group of people is going to spend their most time focusing on the most trivial, the thing of the least value. So if you are looking at a list of things and you're thinking, oh my God, this has like been on my list forever, and I just can't figure it out, and like I keep talking about it with my partner, or I like keep bringing it up in therapy, or I keep grinding on it when I'm taking my walk or bike ride or jogging or whatever you're doing distantly. The thing you need to ask yourself and to get super clear on is what is this thing worth? Is it valuable? When I look at the bottom of my list, and when you look at the bottom of your list, you're going to start to get some indicators of things that you have just been spending precious decision-making, thinking energy on that are not worth your time to spend your precious short life on. Should I buy expensive hand sanitizer at the store if I find it? Look, only you can decide this, but what I want you to do is decide it once. Decide it once and then let it go until you come back to decide it again. So in order to kill the trivial things that can just like soak up so much more of our time than they deserve, leaving less time for the important thing, like actually figuring out what the impact of pausing my 401k contributions might be, because I spent 20 minutes going back and forth about the hand sanitizer. Who cares? Maybe it's 10 extra dollars. This could be like a thousands of dollars, multi-thousands of dollars decision. Spend your time on the thing that matters and just get the other things out of your face. There's too much else going on. All right. Life design in crisis times. The things at the list are what you need to think about. Maybe I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to just take this off the list for now. Right? Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm only bringing things that I think are not trivial over. Goodbye, trivial things. And then maybe the next thing, once you've kind of like let a couple trivial things go, is that you want to think about the thing that you're going to decide What do I mean by that? Well, what decision am I going to pre-make? Exactly, like pre-make decisions. Well, God, you might say, you just go from a list of things to what I'm going to do? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to tell you how with this adorable little sort of concept map here. So often when I'm talking with people or working through my own ideas about what I'm supposed to do next on something, it can be really easy to get caught up on what I would call the like wedding cake. A wedding cake is like an awesome once or twice in a lifetime sort of like really big deal thing that you accomplish. It takes, you know, lots of people and a year or two of preparation, and it's like the big thing that you want to do. And that is probably a great, magical, beautiful, aligned thing, but it's not something that you're going to get done soon. And it is kind of a far way from here to there. You know, and so when people are like, oh yeah, someday I'm going to build the house of my dreams and, you know, dig a well in it and hew the wood myself. I'm like, that's beautiful. But that's your wedding cake idea. Like that is your like once in a lifetime great thing. What are you going to do now to make the current house that you're in a little more manageable? Right? A cupcake idea is something that you could implement in an afternoon. You might think about it for a couple days ahead of time and then boom, you can knock it out. Right? A birthday cake sized idea is one that like maybe takes a couple weeks of planning. You get some other people involved. It's your, you know, it's like a big trip to go somewhere. Not that you're probably going anywhere anytime soon, but once we can go places, it's a big trip. Right? Where I want you to start is like, what's a little thing that with like a couple days of forethought and the lesser part of an afternoon or morning, you could just knock the fuck out. That you can get done in that little amount of time. It's going to build you towards getting a birthday cake done. And like, it's going to move you slowly ever forward towards this wedding cake. So, pre-make decisions, right? Like, what's my cupcake? What is my little tiny thing that I can do towards this goal? I need to go online and calculate the long-term difference between if I stop or keep going, right? Again, if you don't know the value of something to you, your first step is to do some digging to figure out what it is, right? Maybe with this, I need to specify what my side hustle would be, hours, and estimated money in, and then compare it to money out of savings, right? Again, sometimes, often the thing that we need to do is to like learn a little more. I always tell people one of the most important things you can do when you're thinking about like financial decisions is to get yourself specific numbers, even if they're not perfect. Don't get so lost in the details. Just say, what specific number can I get in front of my mind? Because our minds do something called anchoring. When you give us a number, we start to create a mental model or an understanding around that number. We struggle to make narratives as clearly if we don't have a specific detail, like a specific number to create that narrative around. So it's a lot easier to make a decision like, should I pause my 401k right now or not? If you give yourself the information of, well, if I pause my $400 contribution, I'll get $250 a paycheck. And if I end up pausing it for a year, it looks like in the 30 years when I'm not going to, or in 30 years when I'm going to like be drawing down on my retirement, that I could lose anything from, I don't know, looks like 4 to 12 grand. Is this $250 a paycheck worth it to me? Because now you're comparing specifics, not just like vague concepts, right? Get numbers, right? That's what both of these are. And then you pre-decide, what day am I going to do it? You put it in your calendar. You get the numbers, and then you come back to this and you make a decision. Pre-make your decision as early as possible. You might even sit here and say, like, unless I learn, I'll make at least like $20 an hour, including all my like prep time. Not worth it right now. Right? You might go over here. Grab a cupcake, a little idea. Pre-make decisions as much as possible. Right? So with the 401k question, you might be like, well, as long as I'll get at least $200 check back, it's worth it. No. Great. So now you've actually said to yourself, this is the amount of money that I need to make sure I'm getting back in my paycheck. If I was to pause my 401k, if I'm not going to get that much back, might not be, sounds like it's not worth it. So then you don't have to decide. You've already learned. The expensive hand sanitizer, I feel like it's an easy pre-made decision if it's under, you be the judge, $15, buy it. If it's over $15, ignore. Boom. No more wavering ever again. You've pre-made your decision. In donation, pre-making decisions can be really, really helpful, because often for a lot of people, and I know for myself, what donating can look like is kind of this. Well, I want to give a certain amount, and there's a couple things, places that I have like pre-existing donations set up to go to. That's excellent. But then I will get a bunch of donation asks and feel kind of overwhelmed and end up not necessarily donating as much as I meant to, or like getting to it as fast as I know I could be helpful if I was able to. So pre-making your decision can look like this. I'm giving $200 a month, or whatever that is for you. You come up with a number based on just what's possible in your budget, right? Or 3% a check, whatever. These are just suggestions. Pick what is right for you, but pick something, right? Or like $10 every time someone asks, right? The smaller you can make the pre-made decision, the easier it's going to be to follow through on it, right? So like, I'm giving $10 every time someone asks is like a really great pre-made decision, because then it's don't think, just act. Oh, look, somebody needs something. Here's $10. Here's $10, right? I have a colleague who will like collect all of the asks for donations she gets over the course of a week. You know, she has like a specific amount of money that she is like has set aside to give once a week as part of her spiritual practice. She sits down and is like, all right, Here's the amount of money I have to give. Here's everyone who asked me for money. Very good. Number of asks, amount of money, divide one by the other. Boom. $6 for everyone, $20 for everyone, whatever it is, right? She doesn't have to think about it. She just has to have her asks, know how much money she's giving, and plug one into the other. It reduces the amount of thinking to do. The thing that I really want to give you in your mind is that the less you can think about and grind on financial decisions, the better you are going to be able to respond to a crisis, because, as we talked about at the beginning, your mind is reasonably already full of other decisions that you have to make. You have some executive function drain. You're thinking slow more often than you're thinking fast. And so you want to pre-build some of this thinking fast back into your financial decision making. Something that you're not sure on, you can come up with a specific number that's your kind of cutoff point. If it's above this, I do it. If it's below that, I don't. You can have a specific trigger, which is every time this one thing happens, I do this other action. $10 every time someone asks. If it's 15, buy it. If it's over 25, ignore it. It's that type thing, right? You're not deciding, you're just acting. So this is what I want to leave in your percolator as we close out this little mini exercise. There is a copy of this screen that you've been looking at, including some links like to this article that is available at that bit.ly for you. The thing that I want to leave you thinking about and asking yourself is, what is it that you're going to try? Is there a cupcake that you want to try, or a birthday cake that you want to work towards? And my personal favorite framework for what do I want to try is this framework called Now, Next, Later. You have a little board like this, you have some sticky notes or whatever. You get to say 1 to 2 things that you'll do now, 2 to 4 things that you'll do next after you've done the things that you have to do now, and then 4 to just literal infinity of things that you would do later. Your later list can be as long as you want, but the things you're going to do now, you can only do 1 or 2. So that's my last invitation for you as you're thinking about, well, like, what are some decisions you might want to pre-make? You don't have to know all of them. Think about 1 to 2 decisions that you want to pre-make on your own behalf so that you can do a little bit better for yourself and have a life hack for crisis times. So with that, my name is Hadassah Damien. Again, my project is Ride Free Fearless Money. It has been fun talking to all of you. I guess I'm about to take some of your questions down here. So let me know what you're wondering about, and more soon.